Today on the podcast, I'm going to talk about my two biggest business mistakes that I've made. I really hope this episode helps you and perhaps helps you look at your business maybe a little bit differently coming into a brand new year where maybe you're making brand new plans. Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Well, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 166 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, but I really do appreciate you making my podcast one of them. If you're enjoying this podcast, I'd love you to take a screenshot and share it on your socials and tag me. That would be so cool. I really love seeing and having a connection with the people who are downloading and listening to this podcast. You can, of course, get all the show notes for this podcast at all the W's, social media and marketing.com.au/166. And as Christmas gets closer, I'd love you to consider supporting rural and regional small businesses this year. My side hustle, my other business that I have with Lauren Sarah, Spend With Us, which is at all the W's, spendwithus.com.au, supports over 1,300 small rural and regional businesses. And I know that they would love your business coming into the big Christmas season. Or if you're done with your Christmas shopping or Christmas isn't your thing, still visit the marketplace. There's still an enormous amount of great products on there, or maybe even just refer some friends and family. So just think rural this Christmas. This episode is all about my failings. I really wanted to do this episode as I feel the messages are so important, especially as we're not too far out from another year beginning. For some of us, that means a fresh start or looking at what worked and, of course, what didn't this year and maybe the last couple of years. But I didn't want to end the year on a bad note, so I thought I'd better get scooting and get this episode out before the year completely closed in on me. I've talked a little bit lately about what mistakes I've made in business so far, and although there are plenty of them, there's two in particular that I thought you might see yourself in that might just allow you to look at 2022 maybe a little bit differently. They are my stories. I feel a little bit uncomfortable sharing them with you. So, but anyway, the lessons are there for all of us. So hopefully that you will love to hear about them or see the lessons for yourself. But basically, that's why I wanted to share. I wanted to share because I just think there are some things in here that might help you with 2022. So the first big mistake that I made, and like I said, I've made plenty, but these are the two that really stick out to me. And looking back, it was huge. And it was about brand building. As you may or may not know, before founding Social Media and Marketing Australia, which is the business I have now, I worked in a partnership with another marketer in Melbourne. He taught marketing, I taught social media. I also did our social media for that business as well. At the time, it was an extremely successful business. The social media consisted mainly of LinkedIn, Facebook, and a Facebook group. Not so much Instagram, but that was mainly because we could never find out what the password was to Instagram and never quite get that coordinating. So that's why Instagram was sort of left off that list. But LinkedIn, Facebook, and Facebook groups. We also wrote blogs every single week. Again, it wasn't my business. We didn't have a podcast at that stage. So we were blogging every week as well. The mistake I made was that I built the business's brand and I built the brand of my business partner, like his personal brand, but I didn't build my own brand. And I know why. I know exactly why I didn't do it. Because I was little Jen Donovan who lived on a farm and felt that she didn't have the knowledge or power for anyone to listen to. I just felt insignificant. I didn't really feel like I was worthy of having a brand built around me. I didn't like video or showing up for my audience, which is quite different. I still don't like video, but I do it. But now, of course, I'm all about showing up for your audience. I did show up for my inner circle members, though. We had a membership-based business and they knew me well, and I had also started speaking. But as far as online went, I wasn't showing up. I felt small and I felt like I had nothing to offer. My fellow marketing partner, though, he really did try and nudge me several times. And I remember him saying to me several times, you need to build your brand, especially on LinkedIn. But I didn't. I resisted. I was like, no, I'm too small. I'm too insignificant. What do I possibly know that someone would want to listen to me about? So when the partnership came to a grinding halt in about mid-November of 2018, I found myself without a business and without a brand. So I had to start with zero. And I guess we all start from zero at some stage. 0 followers, 0 people on our email list, 0 people in our Facebook group. But if I had my time again, I would 130% build a brand around Jen Donovan, even if I felt icky about it. It's one of my biggest regrets. I will, of course, keep building the brand around the business name and around my business partner, but I would have given myself an opportunity to build rather than hide in the corner or hide behind the brand logo. So for many business owners, this is what they're doing. They're doing what I did. They are hiding behind their logo, their products, rather than showing up for their audience. I think this is kind of why I'm so passionate about this human-to-human marketing I crow about so often, because I've seen how much easier business is if you have a brand, if you have a community rather than just an audience, and if you show up for those who want to get to know, like, and trust you. So if you're not building your brand around you, but simply around your products and logos you have, then please take it from someone who's been there and done that. You will regret it. At some stage, you will look back at this point in time and realize it's a thing that you should have done. You know, maybe 2022 is your year of branding you in your business. Because again, you know, how do you stand out from a busy and noisy marketplace? With you. No one does business like you do business. So even though I felt small and insignificant, I really hope that this is your little nudge, that you won't, even if you feel that way now, that you will swallow that and go, I'm still going to build my brand around me. Pinky swear? You'll love me for the lesson when you start to see the results. I 100% guarantee it. So that's one thing that I did wrong, and it was a huge thing, and it's impacted my business enormously. When I think of how my business could have started when that partnership ended, if only I had listened and started to build my brand, I would have been in a much better and different position. So again, you'll love me for the lesson when you start to see the results. The second thing I did, which is probably a little bit more raw for me, is trusting people rather than trusting my gut. I don't know if you can relate. Sometimes your gut tells you one thing and you completely ignore it. Now, hand on heart here, I don't think I've conquered this one. I'm pretty sure I will still do this in the future, that I will trust people rather than my gut. And maybe that is just part of my personality. But this particular story that I wanted to share with you is around my amazing Buy From Bush business community, a Facebook group that now has 347,000 members, that I almost gave up in early 2020. I almost gave it up because I didn't listen to my gut. I was tired, I was exhausted, I was completely out of my depth and somewhat desperate perhaps, and ignored all the signs. This is probably just one example of being too trusting. I'm pretty sure there's more, but this one stung. This one stung enough to still be having an impact on my business decisions I make today. I'm not going to give you all the details because basically you don't want to hear them all. There's not enough time. This podcast would go for an hour, maybe 2, if I gave you all the details. But here's the basics. In October 2019, I created a Facebook group which went viral and grew beyond anything I could have imagined when I first started it. It quickly became overwhelming, with the kids and the farm and harvest and, remembering back then we were in severe drought, bushfires were just around the corner, school, and then, of course, my paying job because the Facebook group was free marketing to everyone that was in there. And so these 2 ladies popped out of the woodwork and asked if they could help me with adminning the group. I did need help. So I did get help. So I paid them to help me monitor my free Facebook group. And that was in about January 2020. They were so helpful. They enabled me to, contain the amount of hours I was spending, in this free Facebook group, and it allowed me to concentrate a little bit more on my paying business. Things started to go wrong, a bad attitude here, a snide comment there, a few things that weren't me, I guess, things that just weren't fitting into my values. People did reach out and they told me their history with the admins that I had, which was never very good, which I ignored. Probably shouldn't have, but I did. Because one of my personal values, I guess, that I've always held so tightly is that I never judge anyone by someone else's judgment. So if you do something to me, I'll judge you based on that. But if you did it to someone else, I'm not going to judge you on what someone else says about you. I need to make those decisions for myself. So basically, to cut a long story short, I became exhausted and overwhelmed serving all these small business owners in my free Facebook group for free and decided that I would give it to my admins who had been helping me. By about, I think it was almost April 2020, I transferred the business name and the domain name and was waiting for really just a few loose ends before exiting the group forever. I trusted these ladies would carry on the legacy of supporting rural and regional small businesses. At the 11th hour, and I really do mean the 11th hour, I was thrown into a messenger chat group by mistakes by the admins who weren't pleasant. I can't even begin to tell you some of the things I read and saw in that group. So I'll just really leave it at that. But I still have screenshots of them all. I don't know what I'll do with them. I probably should delete them and get it out of my head. But it was shocking. All those things people had warned me about that I had ignored, I couldn't ignore any longer. They were there in black and white. These humans were not good humans, and they were not the kind of people I thought they were. They were basically, sorry to say, but they were vile people. Vile, not viral, vile people. So at the 11th hour, I sent them absolutely packing, threw them out of everything, got my domain back and continued on with the Facebook group. And I'm enormously thankful for that error that they made at the 11th hour. I think that's probably a whole other thing to talk about and discuss is why that happened, but it did. But the thing that was the lesson that taught me the most out of all of that, other than, trust your gut, listen to your gut. It tells you things and we need to learn to listen to our gut, whether it's a story like this or whether it's just you and listening to your body and what your body needs. But I soon worked out in about 10 days, maybe a week or so later, that it wasn't the group that was overwhelming me or exhausting me or causing me so much stress. It was them. It was so out of alignment of my personal and business values that it was stressing me to the point where I had literally never been stressed before. So the mistake was being too trusting, ignoring my gut and what it was telling me, and basically not being able to see the forest for the trees. But the biggest lesson was the out of alignment of people I was working with, that they're out of alignment of my business and my personal values. The business lesson is to do your due diligence. Sometimes a lifesaver appearing isn't what it seems. Sometimes out of absolute desperateness, your judgment is clouded. But more so, know what you stand for, know your business values and stick to them. Listen to your gut. And if you're feeling overwhelmed and stressed and like you can't handle anymore, really try and take a step back and assess what's making you feel that way. Perhaps it's not what you think that's stressing you. It could be something completely different. I thought it was the group. It wasn't. It was the people that I had surrounded myself with. I talk about, you become the sum of the people that you hang around the most. So the 5 people you hang around the most, they become so influential on you. And I had simply surrounded myself with the wrong people, the people that were out of alignment of my business and my personal values. You need to give yourself the space to know the difference of what is causing your overwhelm. This podcast has probably been a little bit hard to record, which, I'm probably not my bubbly self. And some accompanying thoughts that have been brought up from talking about this and some bad memories have probably taken me back there a little bit. And I was a little bit nervous about sharing such intimate stories and lessons with you in case you judge me. But you know what? If you do, that's okay. We'll either be better friends for me sharing these insights into my business journey that I've never shared before on the podcast, or we won't be friends afterwards. And that's the power of telling a story, I guess. Attracts like. But like I said, I've learnt so many lessons in business and have made hundreds, I'm sure, mistakes. These are just 2 of the big ones that really impacted my business but taught me so much. And I think that's why I remember them. I remember them for the lesson, not for the incident itself. Without them, I'd probably be in a completely different place. Maybe not even the same person I am today, because failing doesn't make us bad at what we do. It gives us lessons to ensure we keep moving towards the goals that we have. So that's it from me for episode 166. I'm not quite sure if I should say I hope you enjoyed this podcast, because perhaps my hope is more that it will help you reflect on your business and your values and your path going forward, especially, as I said at the start, heading into a brand new year. Maybe my big mistakes can ensure that you don't make them as well, or might just be the thing you needed to hear today to get some clarity around your business or your business model. I will, of course, see you back next week for episode 167. I promise to be more cheery in 167. Like I said, this was a little bit hard to record, but I really hope that despite the stories, you will see the lessons. Well, and of course, if we're not friends on social, let's get friends on social. You can find me at Instagram and LinkedIn at Jen Donovan. And of course, on Facebook, come and join the Like-Minded Business Owners group. I would really love to have a conversation in there with you about business lessons. What are some of the biggest business lessons you've had? Because I've shared just 2 of my rather enormous ones, or they've been enormous for me. Maybe you sharing your story with others might also help other people not make the same mistakes or see the same lessons that you've enabled yourself to see simply by making some mistakes. So come and join the Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group and let's have a chat in there. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.